Very good evening and welcome to Crime Update Files in London, with the latest police crime news near you.
2 people have been jailed and a lethal firearm removed from the streets of London after proactive work by specialist crime detectives. Brandon Cole, 21, of Benenden Road, Rochester, and Sean Chambers, 22, of High Street, SE20, both appeared at Croydon Crown Court on Friday, the 21st of July, where they were sentenced after Cole had been found guilty of possession of a firearm and ammunition with intent to endanger life, while Chambers was found guilty of possession of a firearm and ammunition.
Cole was jailed for 12 years and Chambers for 6. Time served on remand will be taken into account. After intelligence suggested firearm ammunition may be present at Chambers' address, officers executed a warrant in January 2022. A firearms recovery dog indicated to a wardrobe in Chambers' bedroom, on top of which was a Gucci box. Inside, officers found a firearm and ammunition.
The firearm was sent for specialist analysis. It was found to be a loaded, converted rotary handgun. Chambers' phone was seized and on inspection messages to Cole were identified, leading officers to arrest him. They were both arrested, charged and remanded in custody.
Detective Inspector Lewis Sanderson, Specialist Crime, said, "Every illegal firearm removed from the streets of London means a life has potentially been saved somewhere along the line and another family potentially spared a devastating loss. This work is so incredibly important and I am so pleased today that the sentences today reflect the gravity of these very serious offenses."
A man has been convicted of the murder of Svetlana Mihalachi in Ilford. Nikolai Vertosu, 48, of Princes Road, Ilford appeared at the Old Bailey on Friday, the 21st of July where, following trial, he was convicted of murder. He was also convicted of making a threat to kill, and found not guilty of making another threat to kill.
Sentencing is set for Monday, October the 9th. The court heard how the defendant, Vertosu, was the victim's brother-in-law. Svetlana, her husband, her 12-year-old son and Vertosu all lived together at their home in Ilford. The relationship between 53-year-old Svetlana and Vertosu was not an easy one. They often argued about chores around the house, noise and money. Eventually Svetlana made it clear that she wanted Vertosu to move out, but he refused.
Over time the relationship deteriorated further, with Vertosu continuing to threaten Svetlana. She began to fear for her life. In desperation she reported Vertosu, who was in the UK illegally, to the Home Office. On the 3rd of March, 2021, Svetlana called police asking for Vertosu to be removed from the house.
However, she was scared of Vertosu and afraid of the implications of making a statement. Police told her that they would report Vertosu to Immigration Services. At 14:08 HIS on Friday, April the 9th, police were called by the London Ambulance Service following reports that a woman had been assaulted inside a residential address in Princes Road.
Officers attended and found Svetlana with serious head injuries caused by blows to the head with a hatchet. The hatchet was found at the scene. Vertosu's fingerprints were found on the handle. CCTV inquiries in the area showed that Vertosu had left the house at 12:02 hours when he was seen walking quickly away along Princes Road.
As he walked away from the address he made a call to the Svetlana's husband. But when the call wasn't picked up, Vertosu sent a text message telling him that his wife was dead. When Svetlana's husband returned home he found her lying on the sofa with serious head and facial injuries. Police officers arrived and administered first aid. They were soon joined by paramedics who conducted emergency procedures at the scene before taking her to the Royal London Hospital where she underwent surgery and was placed in an induced coma on life support.
While emergency services were working to save Svetlana, the defendant returned to the address and was arrested on suspicion of murder. Despite all those efforts, her condition deteriorated and at 0:06 on the 12th of May, 2021 Svetlana sadly died. A post-mortem examination found the cause of death to have been multi-organ failure resulting from head injuries and loss of blood.
Throughout the trial Vertosu claimed to have been hearing voices and suffering a psychotic disorder. He claimed that Svetlana had appeared to him as having devil-like shining red eyes to support a defense of diminished responsibility, but he did not convince the jury. Detective Constable Rosamund Ellis investigating said Svetlana Mihalachi had been forced to live with a background of threats of violence that ultimately ended in a ferocious and fatal attack.
Vertosu tried hard to give the impression that he wasn't responsible for his actions due to a mental health disorder, but his actions were not the result of delusions. They were the actions of an angry violent man who launched a murderous attack on Svetlana as he had threatened to do on so many occasions. She was a wife and a mother, and the depth of loss felt by her loved ones is immeasurable. My thoughts are with them today.
A man who ran a photography studio, which targeted aspiring models, has been jailed for sexually assaulting a former client. Detective Constable Sophie Baker, from the Central North Command, said the victim survivor in this case was fantastic from start to finish. She was extremely nervous at the prospect of giving evidence, but, with the support of an interpreter, she told the court in fine detail what happened. For victims, describing the incident in court can be daunting, but she did amazingly, and I am personally very proud of her bravery and thankful to her for coming forward.
We also believe there could be other victims of Cyanthan and would encourage anyone who wants to speak to us to come forward. No piece of information is too small and you will be listened to and supported. Sritharan Cyanthan, of Charlotte Street, Fitzrovia, was sentenced to 11 years imprisonment at Hendon Crown Court on Friday, the 21st of July, after being found guilty of the following offences at the conclusion of a 7-day trial: 2 counts of rape of a woman 16 years or over, 1 count of attempted rape of a woman 16 years or over. When he is released, he will also have a sexual harm prevention order imposed on him.
The court heard how the victim survivor, a woman in her 30s, attended Cyanthan's photography studio on Brompton Road in May 2022. Here she paid for photographs to be taken. The victim met with him again on the 8th of July 2022 for a drink. She believed this was part of the networking process associated with this agency. He had previously contacted her online to arrange this. The victim met Cyanthan at a public house in Warren Street at 1940 hours. He encouraged her to drink alcohol, which made her intoxicated very quickly. He then led the victim to his studio. Here she blacked out on the studio floor. When partially awake, she was aware of Cyanthan sexually assaulting her. She was unable to respond verbally or physically.
She eventually woke to find him putting her clothes back on her. He walked her to the station. The victim, a Chinese national, reported the offences to police on the 31st of July, 2022. She did not tell the police earlier because she did not know how or if rape was investigated in the UK. Detectives from Central North Command carried out an investigation.
They discovered transport for London CCTV footage of the victim arriving at Warren Street Station, and then her back at the station nearly 4 hours later. Cyanthan is seen directing the victim to the tube station. The victim was noticeably unsteady on her feet. The victim provided a visually recorded interview in August, and once the suspect was identified, he was arrested during a pre-planned warrant in September. Statements were gathered from studio staff, and further research uncovered several other photography businesses owned by the suspect.
DC Baker added, anyone with information about Cyanthan should call police via 101 with reference 1852-31 JUL 22. I would urge anyone who has been a victim of rape or sexual assault to come forward and report what happened to police. We will support you and take you seriously. By working with our partners across the criminal justice system, we are determined to bring offenders to justice. We will prioritize action against sexual and violent, predatory offenders, and we would ask any victim or witness to sexual assault to please contact us. We have specially trained officers who will help and support you. 2 historical allegations of sexual assault against clients by the same suspect in 2012 and 2015 were retrieved. These investigations were closed at the time due to evidential difficulties. However, these cases were served as bad character evidence against the former photographer. Unfortunately, vital CCTV was lost in these investigations, as were forensic opportunities due to the delayed time of reporting. With delays in reporting sexual offences can be challenging, we have specially trained officers who will follow up all lines of inquiry and seek to prosecute when the evidence will support it.
If you have been a victim of sexual assault or rape or you have information about an offender, contact police on 101 or 999 in an emergency. There are specially trained officers who will listen and investigate where needed.
The fact that you are still watching at this stage give us encouragement to continue making these crime update videos. Please subscribe below, it's absolutely free.